Whoa, man.
Okay.
We're live. Hi, Johnny. Hi, House of Sage and Lavender.
Hi, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, you know what? Let me turn that off. Even though I turned my volume down, it's still, for some reason, it's still loud. Okay.
There we are. I'm going to share. Do you want me to share it to the Amethyst Ascension group as well?
If you would, I'd be very grateful. Thank you so much.
I gotcha. Got you covered.
So, welcome, ladies. We have a couple of ladies that were not able to join us. Last minute family stuff or last minute, changes, schedule changes, whatever. So we do have, of course, me, Rachele. We have Jessica. We have Ravensclaw. And we have Jasmine. Thank you, guys. So who do we got in here? We've got House of Sage and Lavender. Hi, honey.
Shelby.
Hi,
hey, Shelby.
Hi, Shelby. Hi, B. So we've got some topics today, guys.
Good topics.
Juicy.
Yeah.
Listening by Billy.
Controversial, right?
A little.
I don't know so much that it's controversial. I think it's just something that a lot of people have an issue with, and that goes for both ways, that are constantly trying to tell others and that others are constantly like, quit trying to tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Sonia.
Oh, I see. Hi, Sonia.
Hi.
So I'm showing that we have 10 people watching already. So why don't we just get started with the first question, which is, or the first thing that we're going to talk about is, what is a witch? What do you guys think a witch is? So
go first.
Go ahead.
Well, I kind of put the most thought I could into this. And I think by my own definition of what a witch is, I wrote down a spiritual being having a temporary human experience and applies magic for enlightenment, self-empowerment, connections, a wise, open-minded spirit, the seeker, the healer, the one who walks their path to improve and uncover hidden knowledge, to mold their reality, a magical being. You, me, everyone. Awakens their spirit, the one who wills, the one who dares, the one who knows, and is silent but alive.
That was so well said. I love that. Yeah.
That was way more in depth than I would say. Not that you're wrong, because I agree with all that. But for myself, I always just say a witch is someone who practices witchcraft.
Yeah. What do you say, Jasmine? Uh-oh. Can you hear us, sweetie?
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, yeah, it just did strange. But yeah, so what did you say? Are we still talking about the definition?
Yeah, what do you think a witch is?
So for me, a witch is someone who practices witchcraft as well, but it's more so someone who is actively participating, whether they realize it or not, in the transformation of energy for a certain purpose. So that's what I would say, which is like practicing witchcraft. I just do that way out, but yeah, someone who was like actively participating in the magical practices of the universe. So that's what I would say. So whether they realize it or not, because a lot of people don't realize they're doing it, but I can spot them. So yeah, yeah, that's what I would say.
How many times have you guys done that? Actually spotted somebody that you knew was a witch in their heart, even if they didn't know it.
A few.
All the time.
Yes. Yeah. For me, I just say it's like somebody that is mindful, because, even when in the past, when the trials and all that started, there was something that was put out by the Catholic Church. And what they considered to be those kind of people were lawyers, and it was namely women, okay? Women that were rose to power in certain areas, like healers and lawyers, or anyone that would help empower the people, right? And then it turned into other things like being accused of this or that, or other people wanting to take other people's property, so they would throw in a thing of witchcraft there. And I'm sure there's way more stories. But so I was talking with you ladies before we went live, and I wanted to ask some questions to people to see what they thought of what a witch was, because there are so many times that you hear, well, you know, they're not a witch if they're not doing this. They're not a witch if they're not doing this. They're not a witch if they're not doing this. So I thought I would ask some questions and see what you guys thought. So you have to be a religion to be a witch.
No, I don't think so.
Or a certain religion. No. Okay. And you guys, we would love to see what you have to say about it also. Do you have to look a certain way?
No.
Do you have to have a whole bunch of tools? That's another thing that I hadn't asked you guys, but do you have to have a whole bunch of tools? Do you have to have a wand and an athame? And,
no.
Okay. Do you have to believe in God or several gods?
No.
No.
All right. Do you have to work with candles, herbs, crystals?
No.
No.
Yeah. Do you have to perform rituals?
No.
No, but I would say that like a witch, even if they're not just, you know, doing a ritual as far as, you know, laying it out and planning and all of that, a lot of the times witches do fall into their own sort of rituals, whether they realize it or not. So.
I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, I don't think you have to consciously perform a ritual. So I just want to say real quick, Sonia said that a witch is an earthly centered person. Summer said no religion to be a witch, and Shelby said, I feel like you can be anything you want to be and screw what anybody else says. Your own happiness is what matters. Yeah. Smart girl.
Witch attitude there.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, she's my daughter-in-law and learned a lot from me, so sorry.
I love it.
Well done.
So do you have to perform spells, as in actual writing out spells, you know, using wording and stuff like that? Do you have to do that in order to be a witch?
You don't have to be fancy to be a witch, no.
Yeah. Can you be a certain religion and be a witch, such as like a Christian? Can you be a Christian and still be a witch?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have to be a healer in order to be a witch?
No.
Do you have to do hexes in order to be a witch?
No.
Yeah. Can you be a light worker only and still be considered a witch, or consider yourself a witch?
I think so.
Oh, you mean like, oh, okay, go ahead. It's cutting out, so I can barely hear parts of the question, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, sweetie. I think it's because you're sitting so far back, because your vocals are not as loud for us as well.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to make a pact with the devil in order to be a witch?
Absolutely not.
No.
Okay, we have some people that said yes. What are you guys saying yes to? I am an earth witch. I believe in working with nature, not needing bought tools, but I get that might be important to some. I'm reading Starhawk, the spiral. Oops, it just went up. The spiral dance at the moment. Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Right.
A no rules, free-spirited, strong spirit who feels great connection to the earth and spiritual realm.
There's a delay, Rachele. So whenever we're going through it, we're talking in real time, but for them, they see it just slightly after we've said it. So
Yeah.
that's.
Hi, Starlight. Did I say hi to everybody? Hi, Summer. Hi, Mad Witch. All right. Okay. I think I got everybody else coming in. So, do you have to use divination to be a witch?
No.
No, but I recommend it.
Yeah, I recommend it too.
Right? Yeah.
That's one of the fun things about being a witch is divination.
Yeah. Do you have to contact other spirits or work with spirits in order to be a witch?
No.
No.
I would say no, but I also say it depends because, like, when I brought up a lot of like my native, when I try to pull from that, they believe like there's spirit in almost everything. So really, I think that's personal to the person.
Right.
Decide.
Yeah.
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 You can absolutely work with spirit, but it's not a requirement.
Right.
See, I think you should at least be willing to work with your own spirit.
Yeah.
But that might be going a little deep. But because maybe everyone doesn't believe they have a spirit, I don't know. But I think that's an important part, especially when you talk about the God aspect and believing in that. A lot of people don't have a religion, but I feel like you have to at least believe in yourself a little bit to be a witch, but I don't know. That's just
excellent point, actually.
But if they don't believe that we are a spirit,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And that it would come down to your personal beliefs in that.
I was gonna say I do know there are a whole sect of witches who only do things by energy and manipulation. They don't believe in any gods or spirits. I wholeheartedly believe in spirits because they contact me. But for them, they don't believe in spirits at all. They just feel like when we die, we turn back to dust, and everything they do is based off of energy manipulation. So I would say that you don't have to work with spirit and you can still get where you're going. It's just different for us because they're not spiritual. They're doing it from a purely different standpoint than we do. And that's okay too.
Yeah. And see, I think that's kind of like the whole point of, doing these kind of talks because it's such a broad range of what somebody might consider a witch.
Right.
Right out of the gate. And how many, whether, what you believe, that strongly is going to influence what your practice is, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And do you have to follow the wheel of the year in order to be a witch?
No.
Those were the things that, does anyone have anything else to add to that? That was just what I came up with, like really quick, the biggest questions that people ask, I think.
There's probably hundreds more questions, but I don't know what they are at the moment. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Rachele.
I am so sorry.
Just kidding.
Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to touch on, the next topics were like karma, harm none, or like, what is it, the fivefold, whatever.
Threefold.
Threefold. There you go.
Most of it is threefold, although there is something, the sevenfold, ninefold, tenfold, hundredfold. There's a lot of those depending on which pathogen that you're following. So that's definitely a big one. Most readily available is threefold because most people, when they get on this path, do the Wiccan thing first because that's what's readily available in books for them.
Yeah. So what are your guys' thoughts on threefold law then?
Okay. I understand the need to want to express or practice a threefold or whatever fold tradition or, I think karma is one of those words that's kind of thrown around a lot. in the spiritual community. And a lot of it is because people are using it in a way like, oh, well, if you do this, you're going to get payback. And from my understanding, karma is more of a cause and effect thing, whether it is positive or negative. It's just cause and effect. It's just a different language that it's said in. And but for me, it's the threefold law and all of that. My thing is being me being a witch. There are times where just for myself that love and light doesn't cut it, and I have to be willing to accept the consequences of my actions. And I think that's a huge part of being a witch or practicing witchcraft is the responsibility and accepting of your actions. Because there are times where everything is not going to go your way. You're going to have to do something, make some tough decisions. And so for me, it doesn't really serve my practice to incorporate, threefold or, karma, stuff like that, because I look at that differently. For me, it's just like, okay, if I do something, I'm going to get the consequences. I don't know about threefold and all of that, but sometimes I don't have consequences. Sometimes I'm just, pushing it back, and that is what it is. But that's what I would say. I don't use the threefold law as a basis, because a lot of the times it's also used as a fear tactic, and I don't like that. So that's what I would say.
You're right. I do think it's used as a fear tactic, and karma is widely misunderstood.
I can't agree more. I was going to say around about the same thing, that I feel it's an attachment, not a little spiritual force watching all the bad deeds I do, waiting in the shadows to get me, I was going to also express the cause and effect, because that is what I believe as well in my path. Because if I'm driving, down a road, I fall asleep at the wheel and crash into somebody. What follows after that? The effect. Whatever happens and the consequences of that is my karma, good or bad. It still was a cause and effect, and what comes out of that goes a lot with what Jasmine was saying, personal responsibility, which is the price we pay. And I agree with it being used as a fear tactic as well. Same scenario, if you get in a car accident, I don't think 3 cars are going to come out of nowhere and instantaneously crash into you. Not necessarily, but.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking about threefold, I was somebody talking, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, good point about the 3 cars coming back at her.
I think the threefold is widely misunderstood as well. From a Wiccan high priestess that I had met, she explained it to me in a way different way than what you see readily available online. I don't adhere to threefold, but I understand where she was coming from, because what she was saying, it doesn't hit you 3 times worse. That's not what it means, which a lot of people do think it means. The actual meaning of that is spiritually, emotionally, and physically. When you do something that goes against your code of morals, you are affected that way. Hence why it's called threefold. And that is your own conscience, not some karmic or universal slap in your face. It is about your own insides and what you believe is moral and just. And then when you do an injustice, you feel guilty, and therefore you will be affected emotionally and physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
So while people
price.
huh?
Oh, sorry. I said, which is also like one of said prices we pay, like kind of what
her theory though is it's not, they call it threefold law, and then people use it, as we were saying, as a fear tactic, right. But that's because they don't understand what it means. Right. And if you think about it in the terms she explained, it is absolutely true, because when we feel guilty, it does affect us in all those ways.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Jared just messaged. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
He just got off work. He said 10 minutes.
Okay. So I, of course, went and got the descriptions or the meaning under these words and where they came from. Karma came from karman, which is Sanskrit, and it literally means action, effect, and fate. And yeah, it is the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence. So it could be karma that you brought to this life from a previous life, and or things that you do in this life. You can also, it'll affect this life, but also it could affect your other life, which is pretty much just in another way of saying the law of attraction, in my opinion. Just like threefold, like what you just said. It's the law of attraction. Whatever you put your focus on, that's what you're going to get. So, and I've used this many, many times. And Ravensclaw, when I was talking to you earlier, I had brought this up about in the law of attraction, well, The Secret, when that came out, one of the quotes that they had got was from Mother Teresa. They asked her, would you attend an anti-war rally? And she said, no, but I would attend a pro-peace. Because it's all about where and how you put your energy and your focus. Even though somebody might look at that and say, well, it's exactly the same thing. So it's all in how you look at it for me. So whatever I put out there. But this brings up the issue with, we had talked about this before. So if somebody, not hexing, but if somebody sends you something, and you do a return to sender, do you have to worry about that karma coming in?
He's on in his car.
Hi there. Welcome.
How's it going? Yes, I am driving.
Yeah, so you can talk and listen, but don't look at the camera.
Right.
Yeah, that's my plan.
So for me, I just honestly think that whatever you put your focus on, I'm sorry. I skipped back a little bit. But
that's all right.
You know me with my memory, guys. But so if you return that to sender, is that like where you got to worry about karma? I don't think so. I don't think that has anything to do with it, because I think that it wasn't initially my energy to begin with. All I did was deflected or made it so it went right back to that same person, and right there would show cause and effect. Right?
I absolutely agree with that. You are 100% not responsible for somebody else's crap. And if they send it out in the first place and it hits them in their face, that's their problem.
Exactly right. So
Shelby said, I don't,
Is it Jadrick or Jared?
I go by Jadrick. That's my magical name.
Jadrick. Okay. So we were talking about what do you think a witch is? What would you say your definition of a witch is?
Give me 1 second here.
He's parking.
Okay.
I'm picking her up.
Oh, something.
I'm picking up my girl right now, and I'm getting her to switch seats. Telling her now we're swapping seats. Give me 1 second.
We had a mix up with the time difference. That's my fault. And so we thought he would be available at the same time, but unfortunately he's an hour behind. So that is definitely my fault.
It was a last minute thing too. I mean, so in all fairness, this is what happens when we're live, people.
All right, I'm good to go now.
All right, awesome.
So what was the question?
What would you what do you think a witch is? How would you term that? Or
witches to me is, it really depends on each person themselves, because there's multiple different kinds of witches out there. You've got your kitchen witches, your nature witches. There's so many different ones out there. It's hard to really classify them, really group them all together. I think it makes it difficult to group them together, but I don't think anything negatively about them unless they have negative intents. So I do know there are some out there that do some negative, evil things. especially when it comes to what people classify as like white magic and black magic, which I don't really see it that way. My view's a little differently on that, but witches in general, I don't know. It's hard to classify them as like one thing because there's so many.
Yeah. So many people could fall, and many different practices could fall under that blanket term, really.
Yeah, they really can. It's like, you have paganism as your umbrella term, and then there's so many different things underneath of it.
All right.
A shorter list would be who isn't a witch. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, in my opinion, yes, that's true. Let me catch up with what people are saying here really quick. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Summer said, I started in Wicca and quickly changed to being spiritual. I've grown into eclectic pagan with fairy side notes. LOL. I love that.
Mm.
Mad Witch said, traditional witches in England seem to be very village based on what has been passed down. And I like that too. Yeah. So that's like more traditional, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. I started, Sonia says, I started with Wicca and now I'm traditional. Mad Witch says, threefold law is Wiccan, isn't it? I think the more I learn, the more I walk towards traditional. Yeah.
Mm.
What would be traditional?
Well, definitely not Wiccan.
Right. Wicca is a religion where traditional witchcraft isn't really any religion. It's more about the craft itself.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So House of Sage and Lavender says, I never claimed Wicca. I've always been eclectic. Sonia says, I take responsibility. I consider before I do something what I'm responsible for doing and dealing out. Yes.
Right.
B says, what you out on the universe, what you put out on the universe is what you attract. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see. What else am I missing? I say I'm a bare feet in the dirt witch. Yeah, just get right in there, right?
Yeah.
You can manifest whatever you put your mind to, Jen. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Glad to hear that. Let me see. I'm just catching up. Okay, I think we're caught up then. So the next question, Jedrick, was about karma and the threefold law and all that. What is your take on that as far as?
I definitely see that, anything you do put out, you are going to get back for sure. Because it's, when you talk about the web of the energy in the air, your vibration of when you speak, if that means doing spell work or anything, any chance you do, the vibration, it goes out as it comes back to you. I look at it very much within the water element. If you throw a rock out in the water, the vibration does go out, but it also comes back to you. So I always try to think about what I do, and if it's for a greater good, then I will accept the consequences that come with it. But if it has more negative effects to myself and others, then I try not to do it at all.
Right. Okay. Have you guys ever heard that there's, when I was doing some research, I also found the 12 laws of karma. Did you guys know that there's 12 different laws of karma?
It depends on which sect of karma. Like when I was talking to you the other day about it, there are different beliefs depending on where you're at in the world. So like in China, they believe in karma, but in a different form than they would in India. And of course, then you have the westernized version. And there's other ones besides those three main ones that people know about.
Wowza. I mean, that's a whole topic all to itself.
Yes.
Wow. So did you want to touch on these 12 different laws? And
Sure.
what about Dharma? I've learned Dharma is like the same thing as like following your path. That's what that means. Like your rightful duty or what your life purpose is, knowing that you're on the right direction. And that's also, well, one of these that comes in. Oh, I was actually on reading a article, and it was talking about how you can find out what your Dharma is. And there was like different things, but like even the synchronicities, getting a whole bunch of synchronicities and knowing that what your Dharma is.
I think a lot of people don't know what Dharma is, so maybe you should elaborate a little bit on Dharma.
Okay, so according to Sanskrit, the word means right direction, rightful duty, or righteous living. So the reason I brought this up is because it kind of goes into our next topic, which is about ethics and morals,
Mhm.
right? So if you're in a state of Dharma, it means that you are on your right path and you're doing the things that are like your true calling or like your purpose in life.
Mhm.
And of course, your moral code, or not so much your ethics. I mean, ethics, yeah, though morals and ethics are two different things.
They are.
So, but yeah, it's like knowing that you're on your right path. It's like knowing what your path is and then being on that. And that's what also helps dictate what your morals are, your beliefs.
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty interesting. But we can talk about these 12 laws if you guys want.
Yeah, I would like to know what they are because I don't know them, but I don't study karma a lot because I'm not a believer in karma as most people are.
Oh,
I mean,
but
I mean, I believe in it to a certain degree, but not what you hear most people talking about karma.
well, Shelby, she says, how do you know what your true calling is or the right path? Is there ever
An idea.
an idea or sign? I think that depends on the person. You know, your gut instinct. I've been reading another book, and I was telling you about it, Raven's Claw, which is it's about the she, and it's by John Matthews, and he is contacting, or he's in this book. These are contacts that he had with the she, and they had said that in the earlier days, people actually trusted their gut more. That's why we were more like spiritually more in tune, like with the earth and everything in those days, because we learned to listen to our gut and our instincts more. And then now modern day, people don't listen as much, and then they second guess it, and then it just gets befuddled with everything else.
I absolutely agree with that.
I
We
have,
just that.
Go ahead, honey. I'm sorry.
Nope, I was just agreeing. That's all.
I was going to say, actually, a very odd way of looking at it, how to know if you're on your right path, you're completing your purposes. Well, have you come across trials and tribulations, obstacles you didn't think you were going to get through, but you did? You learned, you grew. Then you are on your path. You're walking it today. You were walking it yesterday. So I just wanted to add that in there.
And synchronicities.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean the numbers either. Like seeing 1111, you get that a lot. You see like 222 and 333 and 555, which coincidentally we started at 555, right? But there's other ways of getting synchronicities. Like for instance, you think about somebody like, okay, with Danu, that was the first statue that I got. I didn't know at the time that Danu was like the mother of the fairies, or the Tuatha De Danann, right? The she. And then, but I had heard other stuff about cosmic.
Rachele, I hate to interrupt. I have to take this call. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no. So it wasn't until I started learning about that but I had learned about other stuff years ago. And the fact that that's who I was drawn to, I don't feel like that's a coincidence. I feel like that was just further proof that that's what I was supposed to do or who I was supposed to research, you know, and then there was more things that led you on that path. Like, oh gosh, somebody that contacted you maybe, or all of a sudden you're watching a TV show and this goddess comes up in the background, and then somebody does a drawing and you get that same goddess in the drawing, you know, something like that. I think those are all synchronicities.
Oh, definitely. And I don't believe there really are many coincidences. I believe nothing's an accident, but that is just me, you know.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I'm a holistic life coach as well. And so when people ask me about, you know, their spiritual path and how can they find it, I always
Can anybody else hear her?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, she is difficult to hear a little bit.
Really? Okay. So, but yeah, so I'm a holistic life coach, and I tell my clients when they ask if they, you know, how to follow their spiritual path or how to find it or figure out what it is, I always tell them to just follow their bliss, because their bliss will always lead them to where they're supposed to be on their right path. And it's going to look different. It's not going to be agreeable for everybody, but it definitely is a way that you can start doing things. So if there are things that you're doing right now that you don't like doing, I mean, you don't have to just stop and drop everything completely, but just listen to that. Listen to your body, listen to your mind, your spirit, all of that. And if there are things that you're not doing, or if there are things that you're doing that you don't like doing, then stop doing that and do things that you enjoy doing more, because it'll take you more into the path that is best for you. And yeah, that's what I would say.
Actually, this thing that I read earlier about Dharma and learning what your life path was, life purpose, that was the number one thing, was following your joy and your bliss. That was the number one way of knowing what your path
It's so
is.
important, because so many people are not doing that, and they're following other people's bliss. And so when you start doing things that you enjoy more for yourself, then you get more aligned on your path of what's right for you. So that's how I came into witchcraft. And it wasn't right for anybody else, but hey, you know, it works out for me, and I enjoy it a lot, and I have a lot of bliss here. So just, you know, just see what happens, follow your bliss, even if it feels a little strange or weird or unconventional, it's leading you somewhere. So yeah.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
I don't want to be rude, but I can't hear anything she's saying. So I'm not sure how to, I can't really reply because I can't hear anything she's saying. I can hear the rest of you guys just fine.
She just pretty much said that one of the, other people are saying they can't hardly hear you also, honey. And I don't know how to fix that. I can hear her, but it is a lot fainter.
Yeah.
I think it's just how far from the microphone.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like not too far though. I'm right in front of it. It may be because of the I'm using a tablet because my phone was giving me issues earlier. So I apologize about that. So yeah.
Gotcha. She just pretty much said for her, you are a life coach, right, honey? A life coach or spiritual coach?
Yes.
And she said that the number one way, or that she always tells her clients, is by finding their joy. If they want to know what their life path is, follow what, you know, makes them happy, brings them bliss.
Okay. So I have something I wrote not too long ago that I always share with people when it comes to talking about what path is yours. A lot of people tell you to take the path less traveled. But for me, my thought, was, why take the path less traveled versus the one that's been traveled the most when I can create my own path? We're all, individuals in ourselves. And if we can create our own path, and then also when you're talking about synchronicities, taking your own path, before you start there, you know, you have all these different people talking about this or that, and you're like, okay, doesn't make much sense. But as you create your own path, you may see, you know, different things along the way that'll start to make more sense, and then that will, you know, further, you know, tell you that you're going the right way, because you don't want to take someone else's way. And then I've also, within that writing that I wrote, is, you know, throw down some grass seed behind you, you know, so that no one can follow your path, you know, because every single person is different. They're going to create their own life and their own, it's going to create, you know, a lot more joy for them, because it's not going to be the same as anybody else. I mean, there might be people that are similar, but you are very much different in the way you think about things.
Exactly. Absolutely. So the 12 laws of karma, the first one is the great law, is what they call it. And it says that you receive what you put out into the world. That's the first law. The second law is the law of creation. Surround yourself with what you want so it is conducive for your desire or conduct. So it's even like a lot like feng shui. Whatever your surroundings are, you know, think of like the crystals that surround you, think of the artwork that you use, think of the music that you listen to, all those things that you have in your surrounding, all attribute to, according to this, and my belief also, what your vibration is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The law of humility. We must accept what is before we can change it. That was kind of like what we were talking about, Jessica, when we did the last live, when we didn't feel like we were ready to do healing because we needed justice first. So
Right.
in order for us to do healing, we needed to see, what was out there and accept it, and then, right? So that's kind of what it's saying there. 4 is the law of growth. Real outer change comes from real inner change. Yeah. 5, the law of responsibility. Yeah. Take ownership of the state of the world around us, for only then can we change it. Yeah.
I think I like those and I want a copy.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you a copy. 6, the law of connection. Interconnectedness of past, present, and future. 7, the law of focus. It is best that you focus on one central goal over multitasking. We must direct our full attention to what we desire. Yeah, I mean, I could see that for me. I am terrible at multitasking, especially when it comes to talking to another person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I even still lose track when I'm talking to one person, trying, 5 people. No, it doesn't work that good.
I lose track talking to myself.
Exactly. 8 is the law of giving and hospitality. So let actions mirror your beliefs. So, be the change that you want to see in the world, right?
Yes. You're always saying that.
Always.
Always.
Yeah. The law of change. That's the next thing. History will repeat itself until you put positive energy to direct it elsewhere. Yeah. 10, the law of here and now. Be entirely in the present moment. It's all we ever have and is to be engaged with and enjoyed, right?
I bet you that is the very hardest one out of all of them, because so many of us do dwell in the past. We just talked about this last night. No matter what's happened in your life, you have to pick yourself up, pull up your big girl panties, and keep moving forward. And that is so difficult for so many people.
Yeah, and also this mentality that the grass is greener on the other side, or when I get this, then I'm going to be happy, or when I get this, I'm going to be happy, instead of being happy with what you have right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there's a guy I watch on Facebook talks about that, in his video he talks about there's a guy who wants the newest phone that's out there, and he's waiting in line before it comes out, and he gets so frustrated. It's stressful, and then when he gets it, he's happy. It's not the phone that made him happy, but it's the release of having the phone. So it's not that things aren't making you happy, but it's the release of now having them, the contentment. Instead of searching for happiness, search for contentment. That's, to me, what it means to be present in our lives, to be content with what we have.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shelby said, it's difficult living in the now when the past also affects your future. And I know exactly what she's talking about, and so do a couple of you ladies. And she's right to a certain degree. But Shelby, I think you are missing a little bit of how you have moved forward and how you do find happiness, and how while the past does affect your future right now, it won't forever.
But isn't that the whole point, though? It is okay to just take little moments when you get them. You know what I mean?
And she does. And she deserves so much credit for that, because when everything happened, and I mean, Rachele, you know a lot about that. She's my daughter-in-law. So she's definitely made huge strides. And sometimes she does not give herself enough credit for the overcoming the difficulties.
Mm-hmm. Progress is progress.
She's absolutely made tons of progress.
Yep.
That's awesome.
The 11th law is the law of patience and reward. What is the thing with this instant gratification?
That affects a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, be willing to, he who masters patience masters everything else. Be willing to do the heavy lifting to create any value. And I have said that so many times, I can't even tell you. Anything worthwhile is worth waiting for. Truly.
Well, one of the golden rules is patience, or something that you see a lot. Patience is a virtue. That's true. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm not super patient. I am about a lot of things, but there's a lot of things I am not patient about. I don't know if it's instant gratification, though, because usually the things I'm not patient about is like my current situation, why I had to take that phone call. I want it all cleared up, but that's because it has a huge bearing. But if it was like cake baking, I could wait for it to get done, cool off, and then eat it. I don't have to have it now. But there are some people who cannot do that. They want everything right this minute.
Yeah. Moon Crone says, if the grass is greener on the other side, it's very possibly because it's growing over the septic tank. Right?
I mean, that's true.
That's one way of looking at it. I always just say, and I got this from my mom, actually, she would always say, if you're always looking around the corner for the next best thing, you're always going to be looking around the corner for the next best thing.
It'll never get you.
Right.
Yeah, you never know what's around the corner. It could not be the best thing. It could be the worst thing.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the last one is law of significance and inspiration. So no matter how insignificant that you feel, you contribute to the whole universe with what you do. The value of any venture is the result of the energy and intent directed towards it. So we all make the whole, every single one of us. None of us is insignificant. We are all important in this matrix. Every single one of us.
Yeah, because I feel like whatever, even if it's just one person, we still put out a vibration into the world. And then the more of us that get together, it creates the bigger vibration. But, even just the littlest vibration goes a long way. Again, when I talk about, throwing a rock into a pond, maybe the big stone you throw out there could make a lot of waves a lot faster, but even the smallest little pebble you throw out there will still vibrate the same distance, but just might be slower, but it still makes the same impact.
Ripple effect. Absolutely. Yeah. So the next thing that we talk about is like morals and ethics. Do you believe that your morals and ethics have everything to do with the way that you practice your beliefs?
I do. I wouldn't do something that's morally repugnant to me. I wouldn't do something that goes against my morals. If I wouldn't do something in my mundane life, like, the non-witchy part of myself, then I'm probably not going to do it in my witchy life either.
Yeah.
I don't think our practice makes our morals. I think we already have morals before we begin. They might change and expand as we grow older and wiser and, gain more wisdom. Of course, what we would do when we were 20 is not the same thing we do when we were 40.
Right. Very true. I will say for me, my morals are based very much on my belief, and my practice is an extension of that. I don't think that they're exclusive. At least for me, they're not exclusive. They are inclusive. What do you think, Ravensclaw?
Yeah, I'd agree. I definitely feel that.
Uh-oh.
As she froze.
She'll be back in just a second. It happened.
It's the internet.
Yeah.
It just does what it wants to.
Welcome back, sweetie. What were you saying?
Sorry about that. But no, I was agreeing with you guys. I don't think it really has anything to do with the magic or the practice. It's more so what you would consider moral or immoral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, for me, like,
oh, I'm sorry. Whoever wants to answer it.
Go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting on you. I didn't start yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. All right. So I can't hear. When it talks about morals, for me, I don't look to harm anyone, but I do feel like there are times where, like a binding spell, it would be in need, only for the greater good. It may, stop someone, and affect someone else, which, that's affecting their free will. But if I feel like it needs to happen for the greater good, I will, because, you go along with the kind of like the seasons and everything. You have life, and then you have death, and then you have life again. I feel like it's the kind of same thing with morals, as in, what you do, you can create positive, but sometimes you have to, create a negative effect for more positive to come through. So when it comes to my morals, that's kind of the way I look at it. There's life, there's death, there's positive, there's negative. You got to choose your battles and how to use it.
Well, let me ask you something then, because we had talked about this before you came on, and it was about if somebody was sending you purposely negative energy, would you do a return to sender?
Oh, of course. If for me, if it negatively impacts me, then I would. But if I was in a witch way, we'll look at it more of is it going to be for the greater good? Do I understand why they're doing this? Does it make sense that they're doing this? But as a normal person, I may not understand all that stuff as a normal person, not understanding magic and all that. But not messing with someone else's free will. But sometimes I feel like it, kind of has to happen. So if someone's doing it to me, if I don't think it's for the greater good, then yeah, I don't mind, sending it back. I take a lot of times I will hold a hematite stone, which is kind of like, I'm going to talk about this in my mirror magic video as well. But I look at hematite as a mirror type stone, so that, if anything is negatively put towards me, that's going to put more negative, it will, go back to the person sending it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So does anyone have anything to say about that? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, so you might have to repeat this because I'm screaming now. So, and
You're
after I answer the question, I'm gonna turn this off and turn it back on. So I'm gonna pop out for a little bit just to see if that helps.
okay.
But as far as the ethics and morals, I think it's extremely individual. Just for myself, I think it's extremely individual because I can't decide what's moral or what's, proper for someone else to do in their own practices. But for me, I just do what I can for myself. And, for my son, he's a minor. And I go about it that way. And I think they just differ from person to person. So for me, I try to do the best I can with what I have, and I try to make the best choices that I can. They're not always the best choices, but I am willing to take responsibility for said choices. And I think it just goes back to the karmic stuff as well, talking about the choices and the experiences rather than the whole, cause and effect thing, but just the choices and the experiences. So that shapes a lot of what my morals and my ethics look like.
Yeah.
I'll be
Good
back.
answer. I was gonna talk a bit more about this, but I mean, it could be slightly controversial. I just don't hate me, people.
That's why you're here,
I
honey.
don't want to come off in like a rude way, but I definitely think that it's something that is a well discussion for this matter. Only because I feel like some light, dark, it kind of keeps a lot of those paths and people in the pagan community debating a lot. And yeah, so for example, someone on a darker path or gray even may realize, okay, I need money right now. My family, might go hungry, but I realize if I do this, I'm manipulating this and it could be coming out of someone else's family. But I'm willing to do that because I need it. Whereas other people could do that as immoral or self-serving.
So you mean like prosperity magic?
Right. Well, not only prosperity, but a lot of, darker people are a bit more, I don't really know how to put it. Like, oh, you cursed someone? Well, they probably damn well deserved it, if you took out your energy for that and you're doing that. That's kind of like Jasmine said, it's probably varies person to person and also path to path is like the point I was trying to make.
It does absolutely vary person to person because everything we do, whether magically or mundanely, is based on our own moral principles and what we feel is right. And
Right.
that's kind of the reason we did this video, because you see across all of the witchy groups, you have people telling you, you should not do this, you should not do that, you should only do it this way, this is wrong, that is wrong, blah, blah, blah. And the fact of the matter is we're all different. We're all on different paths, and our moral compasses are our own. And we are our own judges of what's right or wrong. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. And what I said was true. What I do mundanely is what I would do magically. And if somebody was over here doing something to me, I would punch them in their face. And so I magically would do the same thing. And I don't mean something minor, but I mean, if somebody come over here and was trying to attack me, I'm going to fight back. Period.
That's right. Here's something that I think it was you and I that talked about this, Jessica. There's this thing where, well, I wouldn't curse somebody. I would never do that. I would never do that. Really? Have you ever called somebody a certain name? Have you ever had ill will towards somebody else?
Yeah.
Isn't magic also about intention?
Oh, yeah.
So, really, I think there's light and dark
I am so glad we did this topic, and I'm so glad so many people's involved and so many people are watching and responding, because this is huge in the pagan community. Gatekeeping is an issue, and these topics we're bringing up is absolutely everything to do with gatekeeping.
Well, on that though, talking about morals, is there lines that you would cross as far as whether or not you believe what somebody is doing is right or wrong, or that you should even have a say as far as let's really get into it. Are there certain things that you just like lines
that I'll cross? Like if I see somebody hurting a child or something, you're absolutely right. I'll cross all kinds of lines to protect a child. And there's other situations too. That was just the one that came to my mind first.
Right.
Tell me you wouldn't cross a line if you knew a child was being hurt and you could do something to protect them.
Exactly. Now, would that be considered gatekeeping? At that point, who cares? Right?
I wouldn't consider it gatekeeping. I would consider it being morally and ethically right, just for myself, because if I walked away from a child being hurt, that would make me immoral and just as bad as the perpetrator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my view. So
that's your opinion. It's definitely my opinion too. But I'm just saying that there's others that might think that because we draw that line that we're gatekeeping. I don't care. I'm just putting it out there. I don't care. I'll gatekeep.
I look at gatekeeping slightly differently. I feel like it's people telling me what I should or should not do in my own life and my own practice. Of course, we all follow a basic moral principles set by society, but then, we have our own morals we also follow. And when gatekeeping comes into play, it's more just about our religious practices and what one should or should not do, or those people pushing their own agendas of what they believe is right and wrong, and not allowing everybody to make their own choices, whether they agree or not. I can give you a prime example. And to me, what she was doing was wrong, but I didn't say anything simply because it's not my place. A lady in a group on Facebook I'm in asked for a hex for her landlord who was trying to sell her house that he owns, right? He wants to sell it because he's tired of being the landlord, which means she has to move. She wanted to hex him and the people trying to buy it. I said nothing because it's not my place, even though inside me I was like, you could be very well messing up your own path, because this could be the universe's way of saying, hey, you're going to move on to something better. And I wanted to say that, and had she have been somebody I loved and cared about, I probably would have, but she was some stranger on the internet, and I'm not a gatekeeper. What she does in her practice is her problem.
Right.
That servitor thing that we had talked about is another really good example, Jess. You and I differ in that aspect, so that's a perfect example of what one views as they wouldn't do and someone else would.
Right, but I didn't tell you not to do it. I just said for me,
right,
I would not do that. And that's okay. And I'm completely okay with you doing it. And I'm not going to not be your friend or not talk to you. I just wouldn't do it. And I'm cool that you do. You know what I mean? I think that we all just have to do our own things.
Right.
But if I tell somebody that I think it's wrong if they are actually hurting children in their practice, because this is something that actually came up for Raven's Claw not too long ago on a different platform, didn't it? And others might look at you as gatekeeping because somebody else was influencing minors. Right?
Well,
actually, I did get a lot of backlash for it from people that supported it.
I mean, let them support it all they want. They're going to have to fight over it, because when you are hurting somebody else, a child, in particular, there's no way I could walk away from that. I would fight with everything I had to stop you. That child did not ask to be brought here. That child did not ask to be in the middle of this. And even if they did, they don't know any better because they're children. And that to me is a line I will absolutely cross, and call me a gatekeeper all you want to, because I don't care.
Exactly.
I took down my account with gaining a large following base, because after fighting that, because I did give it all I had, and we even turned it into the FBI and all. So I mean, absolutely, I agree with you there. I just, that would be the lines I wouldn't cross. Would be
Right.
children sacrificing like animals, because that's pointless anyway. Just things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, I wouldn't say sacrificing animals is
tells you that
pointless.
they don't agree, or they don't agree with your choices that you're doing in there. They're not telling you you can't do it or you shouldn't be doing it, but that they just don't agree. Is that gatekeeping?
I don't think having an open dialogue is gatekeeping. I think when somebody's trying to force their views down your throat is gatekeeping.
Yes.
Right.
Agree.
I've got a question amongst that. If someone is doing magic that's going to hurt a child, I know a lot of you guys say that you would interfere in that, but on a different perspective of it, would you also look at it as maybe the universe has this happening because that child is going to learn lessons and grow from that negative experience?
Well, I don't think we're just talking about negative experiences here. I think we're talking about actually harming a child.
Right.
Difference.
I mean, it would, if you, okay, so take spirituality out of the equation. If you're walking down an alley and a man is in that alley molesting a child, are you going to keep walking because you think the universe wants them to learn a lesson, or are you going to stop that?
I mean, for myself, I would stop it. That's just my beliefs on that.
Right. And that's where I'm coming from. What I do in my mundane life, I will do in my magical life. I don't think there's a difference morally for me. So if somebody's harming a child, I don't care what they think it is. Maybe the universe is saying, hey, you know this, so you can stop it, because this should not be happening.
Right. That's a possibility too. Because I like to look at everything from all different perspectives. So then everybody can have an all-rounded thought on it.
Right.
I mean, because there's other people that may think, differently than, okay, maybe it is the fact that they're learning a lesson here. I mean, even if you are to stop it, they're still affected by it. And then there's some lesson in that, altogether.
I mean, what you're saying is true if you believe that the universe has your whole life planned out for you. And I do know lots of people do think that way. I just couldn't leave it alone. So, I mean, that's my own mind. I would have to interfere.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I do think that a lot of our major things in our life are supposed to happen, but there's little things that, in our lives that we have control over. But for the most part, I believe that the major points in our life are supposed to happen, but how we get to those points is depending on what we do.
But here's a question, a dilemma to that then. If you truly believe that all the major things, which I do as well, okay, are planned out ahead of time or part of your destiny or your fate, however you want to say it, how do you know that it's not your destiny and or fate to intervene for that child? That's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a really tough one too. If it's something you're supposed to do, I guess you can also look at it with synchronicities. If say earlier on that day, you were in topics about that, talking about it and everything like that, and then you see it, then maybe you're supposed to be there to stop it. You had walked upon it, and that's just you're there to stop something from happening.
or you're there to experience something, see something that's you're supposed to see.
I would still interfere.
I would too, but I mean that's my look at it too.
See, that's the thing though. Like hypothetically, we're having a conversation, but in reality, I have interfered, and you've interfered, and I don't. Even if the spirit dropped down on my head and said, "You're not allowed to interfere," I think I would still interfere just because I couldn't stand around and allow it to happen because that's my personality.
Right.
Shelby says, regardless of the situation, I feel you should always be there for any child. So do I. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't think he's saying you shouldn't be. I think he's just giving different perspectives, more topics, something to talk about. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's another heavy topic then. Animal sacrifice.
And a lot of people disagree with that. And I don't perform animal sacrifices, but there are some religions who require that for their beliefs, and I just let them do their thing.
Right.
Absolutely. With that, I don't personally do it. However, I do know practitioners that do. Earlier, when I mentioned pointless, I didn't mean, that say they raised the animal, they practice this is for their purpose. That isn't pointless. I understand that. I'm talking about these kids that'll think, they're going to make a pact and just go slay an animal for no reason. That's when, in my opinion, it's kind of a problem because you're kind of slaying it pointlessly.
Well, I mean, when they make the pact and they do it, it probably is less spiritual than somebody who is actually sacrificing an animal. Because I know in some traditions, they sacrifice the animal, they use the blood, then they cook the meat, they eat the meat during a feast. So when you talk about sacrifice, it's not like they just kill the animal and then toss it. They have an actual purpose for it and they're eating it. So I think there's a lot of misconceptions where animal sacrifice comes in. Because let's face it, if you're a meat eater, you're sacrificing animals every day.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I completely agree.
Like Leanne says, animal sacrifice might be more humane than farmers and slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Helki Rain, the woke witch, said, I strongly disagree with animal sacrifice, and that's completely okay. You're entitled to disagree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, I can.
I'm gonna grab my charger real quick before my phone dies.
Okay, so I participated in sacrificial, animal sacrifices, and some were not. There was no cooking of the meat or anything. It was strictly, let's get this blood real quick. And well, that I shouldn't say it like that, but
we know what you meant.
Also, I participated in where it was like that, where it was, a ritual sacrifice. We eat the meat, and it's like a big, beautiful thing or something like that. And so for me, it was kind of like a shock because I was vegan at the time anyway, so I was like, but it was a cultural thing, and it was interesting to watch because I'm from Tennessee, but I didn't grow up in the country. All right. So for me, looking, it was just like, oh, we're gonna kill it right here, So but yes, I do understand that a lot of people do that. And I don't think there's a right or wrong because like you said, I do think that there's, people are slaughtering all kinds of stuff. I mean, we've seen the documentaries and the commercials and all of that. But I think as far as like the whole, ethical part of it, for me personally, I make my own blood. I don't really necessarily need another entity to, use that blood for whatever purpose, But I understand that some people probably, just, traditionally over, thousands of years have done it that way, and that's what they know. I don't think it's a right or wrong. I just think it's not for me. So yeah, being someone who's experienced it and who's done it and looked at it and, been a part of that, I just personally, that's not my thing. So I don't
And
need that.
it's completely okay to not be okay with something. We're not, when we talk about gatekeeping, we're not saying, hey, you're not allowed to have your own opinion because you might offend somebody. That's not the case at all.
Right.
And you are absolutely 100% being your authentic self by saying, hey, I'm not participating in that because it's not for me. This isn't my path. That's amazing. And the only thing we're saying is, and not that you were doing this, but I'm just using this as an example, is don't shove your beliefs down my throat.
Right.
I mean, throughout history, when people were getting, even like on a farm, they were having chicken for dinner. They went out and got a chicken, laid it across their stump, cut the neck off, right? So if you're going to be eating that meat anyways, why not use it as some sort of, spiritual offering? At the same time, you're going to use it anyways. The Native Americans used every single part of that animal in order to honor it and thank it for what it gave to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I guess it's all about perspective and how you look at it. And another thing I want to bring up about that, even when you have somebody that talks about a moral difference between animal and plant, I believe everything is alive. I believe everything has a spirit. So why is it more morally right to, eat of a plant or berries that are alive than it is an animal?
Right.
As long as they're treated the right way, right?
Right.
In my opinion. That's my opinion.
Well, we have to eat. So no matter what you eat, I mean, we can't survive without it. I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
But I get what you're saying, because there are people that are vegan or vegetarian and very much push those beliefs as well. And it's wrong to kill an animal. But then when you have believers who think, and I'm one of those, trees especially have strong spirits. I can feel them. So I agree with you. But then you have people, then you say, hey, well, I mean, you're eating a vegetable and it has a spirit as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if vegetables do, but I do know trees do.
No.
Yeah.
I think everything does, but
I believe they do too. It's just, not to turn the conversation a little, but I think it's just interesting how, how we're, even gatekeeping food is kind of weird, because, I mean, there are so many studies trying to figure out if vegetables and trees have pain receptors. And I mean, it's more about for me, like you were saying, more about the spirit of it. I believe they have a spirit. It doesn't mean they have to have, certain, physical anatomies and all of that. But I don't know. I just think it's more of a spiritual thing, which aligns with my ethics and morals. So yeah.
Right.
exactly.
I don't think I'd want to know. I don't want those studies to come out. I don't want to know if they have pain receptors. I think that would make it impossible to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely would. I mean, they talk about like onions, when you cut onions and your eyes start watering because it hurts. They say that that's a defense mechanism from the, the vegetable itself. So
it releases a gas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It releases a gas. Yeah.
I mean, I think anything has that, an animal may, when if you're trying to sacrifice it, you're trying to, kill it to eat it, it's going to have a defense mechanism. It doesn't want to be, killed, but, we all have to survive some way or another.
Yes.
I don't know if it's like, that's just the way we've been, brought up to survive, or if there's another way to survive, I don't know, but that's what we know, as human beings. This is what we've known for, so many years of how to survive. You have to eat, you have to drink. And so, I guess when it comes to sacrificing, it's a matter of, are you sacrificing it for its blood to use in like, blood magic or something like that? I don't really agree with that, because I can use my own blood for that, because it's my own energy that I want to put into spells or on runes or anything like that. So using another animal's blood doesn't really make sense to me. But I think if we are going to sacrifice any animal or any plant, that, it's you should do a ritual for thanking it for its nutrients and everything else, and thank the gods for, bringing it to the world for us to use.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that and brought that up, because that is where I was going with also the whole pointless thing, just in my opinion, because I believe the same that you had just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I agree.
It depends on the path. I'm sure
Right,
I'm
definitely.
sure that some of the animal sacrifices are used for blood rituals, but in some it's not about the blood. It's about the sacrifice of the animal to the deity, and then that is why they then cook the meat, and it's like it's a whole thing. It's not just about a blood. And I'm sure there is some like that, but I don't know any personally, so I can't speak on that. But I can speak to the one I do know about and why they sacrifice animals. Shelby said, and this is funny, no animal will be harmed in the making of this witch. Well, Shelby, I don't sacrifice animals either. You clearly know that, but I was talking about another path. So
Exactly.
but she's
I think we pretty much all agree here. I mean, I have heard of animal sacrifice, and I've also heard, for the blood, and I've also heard of actually just taking dragon's blood and using it in place of that, a resin, So
there's just so many ways to practice. I mean, there really are, and all of them are legitimate paths, but they get delegitimized by other people's ideas and their morals, and that's the point.
All right, before we end this whole thing, what about blowing out candles?
Oh my goodness. Why did you have to bring that up? Because I got into it big time with a lady over that who told me, do not blow out the candle. And I was like, 20 years in the making, lady, I've been blowing them out and everything's worked just fine.
Exactly.
Jeez. That really happens. An argument.
So what?
What'd you say?
I'm just wondering, what do you mean by the blowing out the candles?
Because there are people that will tell you that if you want the magic to continue to go, you never blow out the candle.
You're supposed to
Snuff it, because then you're blowing your intention away, apparently.
But I feel like when I blow out the candle, I'm blowing my intention into the world. So I
smoke itself.
So it comes down to intention, not technique, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I do whatever I need to do in the moment, and that's what I do, and it works for me. So
I have a candle snuffer. I bought it because it was cool, but I never used it. Just saying.
Yeah. See, for me, like if I have, like I do a lot of spells with candles a lot, and I will let it go for so long, and then when I do go to blow it out, I focus on, my intention, and when I blow it out, the smoke is my intention going out into the world, manifesting what I'm looking for.
Right.
Yes.
Shelby said.
You are right.
Shelby said, I always ask before I blow someone else's candle out. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And then Marge said, Rachele, that is right up there with you can't buy your own tarot decks. And I hate being told that too, because I bought my own tarot deck and I am connected to that thing like crazy. Just saying.
Yeah.
Basically, a good point I want to make is that witchcraft, there is no authority but your own authority in witchcraft. You cannot authorize over somebody else's path or what they're walking, because that's special to them. That is sacred to them. So, I mean, your way may not work the way I do it, or vice versa. But you cannot dictate that for somebody else, because they're going to know what's best for them.
Now, wouldn't you say that would be different, though, if you are in, like, Wicca, if you're actually in that religion of Wicca, then they have certain things that you're supposed to do, certain rules you're supposed to follow. Or if you're right?
But they don't tell you not to blow out a candle or buy your own tarot decks. More of their stuff is guidelines for how to practice witchcraft, not what you should or should not do about little silly things.
Well, they even talk about how your altar should be, though.
Right, and your tools and
Be here.
But if you read that, it says this is a basic altar setup, and it's not telling you it actually has to sit that way. They're just helping you to set. They're giving you information so you know what those tools are, why you're sitting stuff there, and why you're. It's really just a guideline.
Yeah.
I think that depends on the person, because the books that I read that were Wicca based when I first started said you need a color for this. This is
Yep.
the color you use for this. This is the color you use for this. This is where this goes on. This is the God side. This is the goddess side. You use an anathema for this. You use a wand for this.
right, and I think that goes along with like the traditional Wicca religion, and then you
Right.
have to think now you have neo Wicca and these other belief systems that are coming out there, which cool, you know, do your own thing. But I do know kind of what you're talking about with that, and I do agree.
I understand what you're saying too, but I always just look at it as a guideline. So that's why in all of my videos, I try to say research, 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 and get several sources, write down information, and then go with what feels best to you. Do not stop at 1 or 2 books. Read 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, the way I always, compare things, but if I tell 10 people to get the ball out of the tree, there's the limb is only so high. You've got your tall people who can just grab the branch and start climbing. You've got your short people who have to go, maybe go grab a step stool so they can grab the branch and start climbing. You've got your people that are wheelchair bound that may have to throw a rope up there and pull themselves up the tree. So you are really finding what works best for you, even if there is one goal. Not everybody's going to do it the same exact way, but along the way, someone may say, don't step on that branch, only because that branch is weak and you will fall when you step on it. So that's, I guess, if you're talking about guidelines, there are, guidelines to getting to it, but everybody's going to find their own way. But there are some things, you should watch out for.
I'm just playing the devil's advocate over here, because even like for a coven, there might be a certain way during a ritual that they want you to do it, but it's because you are in that particular coven and you are following a certain tradition. So we're not saying if you're in that and that's what you're supposed to be doing within that, we're not saying be a rebel and go do your own thing. Well, maybe you should just be a solitary if you don't really want to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Or find a coven that fits you more.
Yeah,
Right.
find your tribe. Find
Right.
your tribe.
Exactly.
That's it. In mundane and magical life, find your tribe. The people that speak to you, that are loyal, that you're loyal to, and that you feel the most confident and comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll say too, just to tie all of that together, just Wicca. Like, I'm a hoodoo practitioner, but it doesn't matter what you practice. You can practice atheist, witchcraft, whatever. I think the whole point of it too is that we can't forget that it is a practice. We're always practicing or doing things and trying things, and so if we don't do it by the book, I think it's okay. Or if we're even some people, they like to follow the rules and what have you, but I think it's okay, because even if you look at it, like, I have a Christianity background, and we were talking about practicing Christianity and what does that mean to be a good Christian, you know what I mean? And so I think about how it ties into everything, all types of just ways of life, not really getting too stuck on the restriction of the how-to and the instructions and all that, but just allowing yourself to just practice and being okay with the practice of it, and not trying to stick it 100% of the time, every time. And I think it allows for growth too, just practicing. And I just think it's so important to not forget that it is a practice. We're trying things, and some things work. Sometimes they don't work one day, and they've been working for years, and we just do something different. So, but yeah, that's what I would say.
Right
I
on.
agree.
Yeah,
All right.
well said.
So before we close this up, do you guys remember what the next date for our next roundtable was?
I think it's July 9th. But I'm pretty sure it's July 9th.
And we had not talked about a topic for the next one, but we were going to do a continuation of different topics within gatekeeping, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing. We can have up to 6 people. So we will post an announcement in the Meet Us at the Crossroads group on Facebook. The link to that group is down below in the description. So if you want to partake in the next one, it's first come, first serve. So get your,
Except for me, because the next one's on my page, right?
yeah. And
That's what I was gonna
I'm
say.
in on it, okay? It's already me. So it's first come, first serve after a few people, okay?
Yeah.
So
But I want to tell you, Jared, thank you so much for joining us and bringing the male perspective, because this is really a female dominated arena. I know there are plenty of males, but they just don't have as big of a voice as females in this arena. So I would love to have you on more. So if you're interested on doing next, make sure you get in there and sign up.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely interested. This has been a lot of fun, and like I said, I love learning about different perspectives and stuff like that, and adding in my own perspectives. This is actually amazing.
One last thing, too, guys. When we put that in there, give us ideas of what kind of topics you would like to see us discussing.
Absolutely. If you're joining from YouTube, thank you very much for joining from YouTube. But if you want in this group discussion and you want to be on the Witchy Roundtable, I need you to go to Facebook and click the link for the Crossroads page. And that way you can see all of our updates, because we're all doing the Witchy Roundtable on both our YouTube channels and on Facebook, but everything is ran through the Facebook.
Right. Leanne, you said that you can switch between people. You can. We have up to 10 people that we can do. However, and my only problem with this is, as somebody that would be hosting it, or Jess as someone that would be hosting it, when do you decide, okay, I'm going to silence this one and put this one out. I'm going to silence this one and put this one out.
Right.
I would be so stressed having to say, okay, we've heard enough from you.
I feel like that would be rude too. So sticking to sticks is probably the best way to do it. And definitely just get over there and sign up, especially if you have a YouTube channel or you have a Facebook page. That way, then you can share, and people that are following you can see your ideas in real time with other witchy people and different perspectives.
But one other thing also to think about is, if we do have more people that do want to do it,
we could do more lives during, more than once a month.
Or we have like a backup system, because we did have 2 ladies that were going to be joining us today and they weren't able to. So we could say, okay, the next person in line,
yep,
and add you.
Or we could also do, if there's so many, so many of us are on video and the rest of us are in the chat room. So, we can ask, hey, if you're not on live, just go in the chat, say, hey, so-and-so, what's your thoughts? And then they'll, have their thoughts typed up and, send it and go that way.
Yep. I mean, there's many ways to do this, but I personally would like to do the lives more frequently. And if we get enough people, we could do that. So it'll just depend on how this grows, but we definitely wanted to throw that out there. Give us topics you want to hear us talk about. If you want to join, let us know, and everything. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Great.
I want to say thank you to all you guys for joining me on this. This was wonderful.
I love it, Rachele. I love that you had this idea. It was amazing.
I had a great time.
You hear so much stuff about these topics. It gets talked about, especially for people that are brand new, and then they just feel like, you know what, forget it. I mean, people look at me like, because I'm not doing it this way or doing it that way. Yeah. So, don't listen to that.
Right.
So thank you guys for joining me, and thank you everyone for coming, and we love you.
You guys have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.